Welcome to another edition of SVSU Red Alert, your weekly update on Saginaw Valley State University athletics. I'm your host, JJ Boehms. The SVSU football team went down to Detroit and came away with a very impressive win over Wayne State. We'll get an update with SVSU head coach Jim Collins, and as men's soccer gets set to host the GLIAC tournament, we'll be joined by SVSU men's soccer coach Cale Wasserman. That's all ahead on this edition of SVSU Red Alert. Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. The SVSU football team went on the road down to Detroit and scored a win in very impressive fashion over Wayne State. The final score, 28-20. I'm joined by SVSU head coach Jim Collins. And Coach, this one had to feel pretty good.
This was a great one. I think the way we played, everybody contributed, what was on the line, and for us to come away successfully, I think was a big win for us.
And SVSU in this game, your touchdown drives, 91, 70, 86 and 96 yards. So you had some very good, effective, sustained drives.
It was really good. We didn't have great field position, obviously, but to be able to convert those to scores was big. We also had a bunch of big plays along the way to help us on those drives, and our guys really came through. And I think the other part of it was our defense did a great job of stopping them. They gave Wayne State pretty good field position in the kicking, or we gave them pretty good field position in the kicking game, and we were able to stop them and get the ball back. That was key.
After those two early touchdowns for Wayne State, you only give up a couple of field goals, and they only convert 1 third down the entire second half.
Well, we knew if we could get them to play from behind, we were going to be at an advantage. So I think getting the lead and taking that lead into the fourth quarter was really a critical thing for us. And then to see that happen with great pressure on the quarterback, knocking balls down, forcing bad throws was a great effort by our defense.
And your quarterback, Jonathan Jennings, a new career high, 338 passing yards.
Well, really efficient, too, against a great defense. Let's face it, that was one of the better defenses we'll play all year. They did a great job of pressuring the quarterback all season long. We held him to 2 sacks, which I thought was a good day for us. But he was accurate. Our guys made the catches, and we made the big plays. And I thought that was great to see against a real good defense.
And when you look at the stats as well, I mean, a lot of things jump off the page, but you more than double them in terms of total offense, 512 to 245.
Well, I think that's shown by where we were in the field position battle. We didn't have great field position. They did, so they were working with a short field. We worked with a long field. But once again, we converted a lot of situations. We were over 50% on third down. We had some explosive plays. John was accurate. Other than the one fumble where he gets hit and fumbles the ball, we did a good job of protecting the football. So all of those things, I think, contributed to great stats. But then the ultimate stat, winning the football game, we were able to do, and that was big for us.
Lots of highlights from this game, including what you talk about on offense, because Wayne State gets the early lead, 7-0, but then you put together the drive. You've got the big pass play to Nick Galena, and then John Jennings is able to run it in.
Well, key play was the big pass and then the run after the catch. I thought it was a great throw by John, but then Nick breaks the initial tackle and takes it all the way down to the 3-yard line. Then John makes the guy miss at the goal line on the next play and scores. That was good.
So that gets it tied at 7. Wayne State would come back. They'd take the lead again. But once again, you put together a good drive, 10 plays, 70 yards. And then for the first time, Jennings finds Janice.
Well, we had seen press coverage, and we thought we could exploit their press coverage. And Jeff, I thought, did a great job of getting off the ball and getting vertical. And then John put it right on the money. And all Jeff had to do was make an over-the-shoulder catch for the score.
And then that same connection would work very well again, this one from just a little bit further back.
And once again, we had seen that press coverage and wanted to take advantage of it. We thought that was a great matchup for Jeff and John. Once again, the key thing to completing those passes is a great ball, and John put it right on the money again.
And so you were able to then take the lead into the locker room, and I've got to think are feeling pretty good about things because Wayne State got on top of you twice, and both times you responded.
Well, the big thing was, and we really felt this way, that on the road, what we had to do was get through that first half with an opportunity to keep the game close. And we were able to do that, and then to have the lead gives us a little bit more confidence to come out in the second half and execute. But I thought the way we attacked them, we were aggressive in that second quarter. We went up top, we went after it, and we did the same thing defensively. I thought we were very physical and very aggressive.
Couple of big plays for you in terms of what you were able to come up with on defense, some opportune plays as you get a sack from Darius Middlebrooks.
Bringing the guy off the edge I thought was a great call, and that was the other key. Get pressure on their quarterback. They had done a good job of protecting him all year and force him to make bad throws, force their timing off, and not just the Middlebrooks play, but other plays along the way where we at least made him get out of the pocket and run, I thought were key contributors to us being able to stop them.
Brandon Williams coming up with a big sack as well. And then, as you mentioned, Nate Snyder a couple of times had good pressure. He doesn't get credit for a sack, but he forced bad throws.
Exactly, and that's the whole idea. If you're not going to get a hit on that quarterback when he's got the football, get a hit on him as he's throwing it, force him out of the pocket, force him to move his feet and not have his feet set and enable our defensive backfield to get to the football.
And then talk about that drive in the fourth quarter. It's a one-point game, 21-20. Wayne State had gone for an onside kick and recover it, but you're able to go ahead and march down 96 yards for that security score.
Well, we had two key plays. The first play was on a QB read. John did a good job of getting to the edge and gaining about 20 yards. But then we come back a few plays later with a power, just a regular off-tackle power play, and Tim Hogue gets through there and then bursts for 47 yards. Huge run in that situation. And I think that was really, at least we had swapped field position with him at that point. We got ourselves in field goal range, so we felt really good after that.
And then John Jennings able to punch it in again, and at that point, you go on top by 8, and now all of a sudden you put a lot of pressure on Wayne State.
Sure, they've got to throw at that point. They've got to get back in. And worst case scenario is they score and they have to still convert 2 points just to send the game into overtime. So I thought we were really in the driver's seat there. We were able to dictate to them what we wanted to do, and we forced 3 incomplete passes, which was awesome to see.
It was great to see, and it all adds up to an impressive SVSU victory, 28-20 over Wayne State. And now coming up, senior night for the Cardinals as they host Northern Michigan. We'll catch up with Jim Collins a little bit later on. When we come back, we'll be joined by SVSU defensive coordinator Todd Stepsis. That's next on SVSU Red Alert.
Take 2. That's all right. It's usually better another time when I do it anyway. Jennings hooked up on a 22-yard pass to Janis with 2:58 remaining in the second quarter to tie the score at 14-14. Janis caught his second touchdown from Jennings on a 39-yard strike that put the Cardinals ahead 21-14 over the Warriors. Janis now has 31 catches for 637 yards and 8 touchdowns on the season and an average of 20.5 yards per catch. Jeff Janis, your Spring Hill Suites Male Athlete of the Week.
Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm joined now by SVSU defensive coordinator Todd Stepsis. Todd, thanks for joining us.
Love being here, especially after a couple wins.
It has to feel good, and this was a game most recently against Wayne State where you give up some points early, but then it seemed as though the defense really seemed to tighten the screws as the game went along.
They responded at halftime. They knew that we needed to do some things a little bit better than we did the first half, and they were motivated coming out of the locker room, so I was pleased to see that.
And when you hold a team to 245 total yards, that's got to be one of those things that as a defense you take a little bit of pride in.
Oh yeah, that was a good win, a good effort by the guys. They did what we asked them to do, and it all started with the week, the preparation week, and really, for the last 3 or 4 weeks now, we've had great weeks of practice. They've done all the fundamental things that we've been preaching. It's a physical practice, so they're tackling well in practice. A lot of teams don't like to do that, but we feel in order to stay sharp in the fundamentals, we got to practice hard, and I think it carries over into those Saturday games.
How much has it affected the defense to have Jeff Heath move from linebacker back to safety, which had been his original position prior to this year? Because it seems as though that team has really gelled around that transition.
That's his natural position, is that back safety. But as you can see when you watch the games, Major's in the action a lot at that outside backer spot. So that needs to be a solid person. And it was nice to have Major step in and do the job that he's doing, enabling us to move Jeff back. So now with Jeff back there, he covers a lot of ground. He's a long guy, and he's a smart guy, because those guys are, that's the guy that makes all the checks, and he's the one who realigns us. So having him back there, I think, has given us a lot more confidence.
And I thought that the front four, even though they only collectively get credit for the one sack from Brandon Williams, they did a good job getting pressure against a very experienced Wayne State offensive line.
That was probably the best offensive line we've seen so far. And early on we couldn't get much on him, but I tell you again, after halftime, those guys, they took it upon themselves. We got to get some pressure on him. We got to get in his face. We got to force him to make a couple of bad decisions and bad throws. And Nate Snyder had an unbelievable game. And you're right. I mean, you don't really notice in the stats, but when you go back the next day and watch the film, I mean, those guys were relentless.
And really limited big plays, because Wayne State didn't have many.
That was the neat thing about after that game. You always get the stat pack, and the first thing I always look at is rush yards and how do we do against the run. But then the second thing, big play. Who had the big plays? And they had the receiver who was averaging, I think, close to 120 yards of receiving a game. 19 yards a catch or something, astronomical. And I think he had maybe 5 catches for 40-some yards. So they did a nice job in the back end of putting the clamps on.
What do you need to see from this unit the rest of the way, because you've got a big game coming up against Northern Michigan, and there's a lot on the line now with SVSU tied atop the GLIAC North?
Just keep playing with confidence. I think they have a lot of confidence now. They've had a couple of good goes these last couple of weeks. So just keep playing with confidence, understanding what you can do, what your limitations are, but also what your strengths are, and play to those strengths, and doing your job. Playing as a complete unit, and doing the fundamentals correctly. And it's going to be, I think, another good game, because our guys are really playing with a lot of energy and a lot of emotion.
You talk about fundamentals. One of the things it seems to me is that there have been fewer yards after contact from the teams who've been playing the last few weeks, meaning guys are wrapping up and finishing tackles.
Oh yeah, and if we're not getting them down with the first guy, that's the other key to playing good defense, is you got to get the next several guys in on the ball ready to go. So I think we've done a great job on the initial contact. We talk about total body tackling, head, hands, feet, everything involved with it, and making sure that we're exploding on contact. But then the other part is the second guy, third guy, fourth guy. We're getting as many hats to the ball as we can. Second guy tackling the ball, third guy finishing and everything up. So trying to swarm as much as we can.
Well, hopefully that swarming continues as you take on Northern Michigan. Todd Stepsis, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And when we come back, we'll be joined by SVSU soccer coach Cale Wasserman. That's next on SVSU Red Alert.
Saginaw Valley State University, where students learn in personal classroom settings and state-of-the-art labs. Where students make a difference in Michigan's Great Lakes Bay region and study the world. A place where we celebrate red pride. Saginaw Valley State University.
Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. The SVSU men's soccer team finished the regular season in first place in the GLIAC Conference. I'm joined by SVSU head coach Cale Wasserman. Cale, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, JJ.
And as part of the congratulations for that, this means you get to host the GLIAC tournament.
Yep, coming this Thursday. We're pretty excited to be on home field, home turf. We've done pretty well in the past 2 years at home. So it's a good feeling, a great feeling to win the championship, but obviously we have more work to do this weekend.
Is there a home field advantage in soccer the way that there is in the other sports that you hear talked about more often?
Absolutely. I think there's a home field advantage. I mean, you're familiar with your surroundings. You get to use your own locker room. Friends, family get to be at the game. You know, you're eating in familiar places. I just think it's one of those things where you're in your comfort zone. You just can't get too comfortable. You have to know it is your turf that you need to protect. So I think it's an advantage, but I definitely think we need to work for what results that we'll get.
What have you been able to do as far as your team this year to have what's really historic success in terms of winning the regular season title?
I'd say the key word is balance. We've got a very balanced team. We're not one-dimensional. There's a couple teams in this league, as good as they are, you know, they might have one or two guys that if you can shut down, you can really handle them. But, I mean, we've scored over 40 goals this year, and I don't think anyone on our team has more than 7 of them. So we share the roles offensively and defensively all around. Everyone's held accountable. So that balance really helps us go forward.
And scoring is going to be something you need to do against your first-round opponent in Tiffin, because they're one of these teams that likes to try and keep it a 1-0 game and hope they get the one.
Yep, Tiffin has a very big athletic team, one of the top goalies. He's a freshman, but he's one of the top goalies in the region. I think they've only let in maybe 7 goals in conference this year in 12 games. So, I mean, we were fortunate enough to get 3 of those goals in the 2 games that we played against them. But it's definitely probably going to be a lower scoring game, so we need to make sure that we're sharp and finishing our chances.
And you talk about that in soccer all the time, but now it really gets heightened because of the fact that this is now playoff competition.
Yep, it could be one and done for us right now. So we're not promised anything past this Thursday. Definitely we're trying to work towards that regional bid. The top 4 in the region will go to the NCAA tournament, but we know that we need to be sharp because this could be our last game. It is the playoffs now.
And also that situation where I know if it can become that game that drags on into the 80th minute and nobody has scored, you have to make sure that you don't press too much on offense and let somebody slip behind you.
Yep, and we've been pretty smart about that. And earlier this year when we played them at their place, it was one of those 80th. It was more like the 88th minute, and we finally snuck one in. But yeah, you've got to be smart, especially with the team that's got a couple guys individually that can burn you from any part of the field. So you definitely have to remain smart, remain organized, but at the same time push forward and create chances.
And you talked about the balance. I've got to think that helps with team camaraderie and team confidence and everything else to know that it isn't just one guy that you're counting on.
Yeah, I agree, and I also think it helps just in practice, the competition level, because there's not one guy that we know, hey, this guy's going to be starting, this guy's going to be playing 80, 90 minutes a game. Everyone knows, hey, I'm right up next to that guy, you know, on the depth chart. So if I push him a little bit, he pushes me a little bit, we kind of all benefit, and everyone's fighting for their spot. But it's been a friendly competition. Nobody's taken hard feelings if they've sat on the bench. We've had guys come off the bench that haven't played in a full game. You know, the game before maybe didn't get any minutes, but then they come off the bench and contribute big things. We had, you know, this Saturday, a guy stepped off the bench for us who hasn't got a lot of minutes and played almost the whole game and scored the goal that ended up equalizing it and gave us the chance to go forward and win.
Well, hopefully all this comes together. I know you're an SVSU alum. You can't be satisfied with hosting the GWIAC tournament, but it has to be gratifying to know that you've been able to do this and give your fans here for SVSU soccer a chance to watch it.
Yep, I mean, knowing the history of the school and being a part of, you know, a part of playing here and everything else, it definitely felt good to know that we've accomplished one of our goals and winning the GWIAC championship, but that was only one of our goals for this year, and we've got a couple more that we're pushing forward and hoping to accomplish as well.
Hopefully you score a few goals and reach those goals.
Yep.
Cale Wasserman, thanks for joining us, and
Thanks
good luck.
a lot. Thanks, JJ.
And when we come back, we'll be rejoined by SVSU football coach Jim Collins. That's next on SVSU Red Alert.
This week's Spring Hill Suites Female Athlete of the Week is Annie Buxton. Buxton, a senior outside hitter for the SVSU women's volleyball team, came up with an impressive performance in the thrilling 5-set victory over Grand Valley State last Wednesday. Buxton leads the Cardinals with 24 kills on 55 total attacks, including 14 digs in the victory over the Lakers. Buxton also recorded a combined 22 kills in road victories against Tiffin and Ohio Dominican over the weekend. Buxton now sits 4th in all-time kills in SVSU volleyball history. The Cardinals have won 5 straight matches and are currently ranked 7th in the latest AFCA regional rankings. Annie Buxton, your Spring Hill Suites Female Athlete of the Week.
Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. The SVSU football team will close out its home portion of the regular season against Northern Michigan on senior night. And Coach Collins, this is always one of those really emotional games for a football team.
Absolutely. You know, last time the seniors are going to walk out in our stadium for a regular season game. It's a big game, and really, I got to hand it to. I think this senior class has done a great job all year long with their leadership and making plays for us and contributing it to victories. And once again, we're going to need their best in order to get the win.
And sometimes it's the little things that may go unnoticed. You think back to the Wayne State game, one of your seniors, Frank Tuarmini, on the offensive line, hobbles off, but then he does everything he can to get himself back into the game and made some key blocks for you after he returned.
Absolutely. And I think if you go down the list, you know, and look at that game, just about every senior really contributed well. You don't notice some of the things like Torminia coming back in the game with a bad ankle, or Brandon Hayes getting a key block and pass protection. You know, you notice the Middlebrooks and the Williams making big plays, but not always those little things. I think every senior right now is really doing their best to contribute to our success.
And you'll be taking on a Northern Michigan team that's kind of been up and down this season. They got some good wins early in the year, and then they got a big win last Saturday over Tiffin, but had some struggles in between.
You know, and I think that's been pretty much the way the whole year has gone for a lot of people in terms of inconsistency. We've had our moments of inconsistency, and a lot of it's related to big plays or turnovers. And I think that's what got Northern in a couple of those games early on. They had some turnovers that cost them big, but they're still a good football team. They play really good defense, and I like their offense with their quarterback.
That really made a big difference for them last year when he went down for an injury. What do you do to try to work against someone like Carter Kopak, who is a true dual threat in terms of being able to run and pass?
You know, the key thing for us, once again, you got to be disciplined, and that's what'll get you. You know, if you're out of your lanes and your rush lanes, or you're not doing the job in the secondary of covering people, you're going to put them at an advantage. So we've got to be really disciplined. We got to read our keys, and luckily for our defense, you know, for the most part, they've gone against the dual threat quarterback with our guy, John Jennings. So I think we've got to go back to making sure we're solid and sound and disciplined.
And the offense, you notice more of the big plays that come in the passing game, but there really has been pretty good balance the last few weeks. You rushed for 170 yards against Wayne State again.
Well, once again, JJ, big plays help you with your rushing statistics, but we've also had a consistency of 3- and 4-yard gains, and our guys are running hard. I think if you go back and look at the Wayne State game and the Aston game, you see a lot of broken tackles with Tim Hogan, Ronnie Larkin, and then our quarterback also contributing to the running game. So I think the blend of everything together, how everything's fit well, has put us in a position to be balanced and put the defense in a position to be guessing. You know, who's going to carry the ball, where's it going, is it going to be run or is it going to be pass, and that's what you want to have to be able to dictate to the defense.
And now we go into November, 2 regular season games remaining. Obviously Northern Michigan, the big one because it's next on your schedule, but there's a 5-way tie atop the GLIAC, and you're still right there.
Well, it's good that we're still right there. We understand where we need to be at the end of this week, and that's the most important thing. We need to be 1-0 at the end of this week in order to maintain our position, and we got to get focused on this one because this one's as big as every other one has been every week. You know, it's a must-win situation for us. We got to play our best to get it done.
And this is going to be one of those games as well that I know has a lot for you in terms of that emotion we talked about earlier with senior night, because nobody wants to have their last home game, at least potentially, go the wrong way.
Absolutely. And what we got to continue to do is build on the things that we've been doing well, and that's playing good defense, preventing the big play, doing a good job of protecting the football, and then on offense making the plays it takes to win the game.
Hopefully all of that comes together. We look forward to a great atmosphere on senior night against Northern Michigan. Coach Collins, good luck.
Thanks, JJ.
And we thank him for joining us, and we thank you for watching. We hope you have enjoyed this edition of SVSU Red Alert.